Welcome, everybody, to Survive and Advance on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. Survive and Advance is brought to you by Replenishing Care and their new CBD product. Make sure you go to the top of our page. You get a huge discount through July, I think, the end of the month. So it's coming up here in the next day or so. So make sure you check that out. You can click it at topofthegruelingtruth.net. I'm your host, Mike Goodpaster. Right now I want to welcome in my co-host. Won a national championship in 1981 with the Indiana Hoosiers. Help me welcome to the show, Steve Risley.
Mike, would you get it right? Either I'm your co-host along with my other co-host, or I'm your host along with my other host. Quit putting yourself at a level above me. You're not there. Your numbers on this show were for crap until I came on board, and now they're jumping through the roof.
Wait a second, Steve. I hate to tell you this, but this show didn't even exist until we.
That's right, because I created it.
You created it.
So let's just either call yourself a co-host along with me, or call us both hosts. Okay? Now, don't start off with me on Monday with this I'm better than you crap already. We got a lot of debating going on this week. People are going to want to listen.
Steve is upset right now.
No. I'm upset about the Hall of Fame inductions, which is Wednesday's show. So everybody listen Wednesday. We're going to blow out the Hall of Fame.
We're going to blow out the Hall of Fame on Wednesday. Today we're going to do a preseason preview of the AFC. Tomorrow, NFC. Wednesday will be Steve blowing out the Hall of Fame. I agree with him, too. Lucas probably doesn't because Lucas is from Canada.
Lucas is an idiot.
All right.
What we say?
All right. So
my goodness.
Steve's the co-host.
What a way
Lucas
to start the Monday.
All right. Let us at least introduce
Lucas,
him
you're not an
idiot. Start
Lucas, you're
beating on him.
Lucas, you're only an idiot because you come on this show. Put up with us. That's the only reason you're an idiot.
All right. And, of course, our guest today is known throughout the world of Iditarod as maybe the greatest historian when it comes to the Iditarod dog sled race. And in March or February, whatever that race is, we're going to have him there credentialed. And if we can find a sponsor, we're going to fly Steve Risley's happy ass up to Alaska for the start of the race. And maybe we could get both of you guys on a sled with a couple dogs, maybe a couple poodles pushing, mushing, whatever you call it. Help me welcome to the show, Lucas Weiss. How you doing, Lucas?
Oh, I'm great. It's Monday. Great to be on the show with you guys. And, March, Iditarod, classic race.
Did you tell him to shut up?
It's going to happen.
God.
No, yeah.
Yeah, I think that I'll do the show, and I'll call in my two co-hosts for the Iditarod 2019 extravaganza. And I think that the two of you need to be, mushing it on a, whatever you call it, a sled.
Hey, you know what? If I had the opportunity to do that, I would probably go participate in one of those one time. It would probably be just an incredibly beautiful, unique thing, very difficult. I've heard those things are brutal. They're very dangerous because you're going over ice. You're attacked by bears all the time.
You're attacked by bears all the time? Lucas.
Yeah, don't you?
Lucas, in the Iditarod, since you are one of the greatest living historians of the Iditarod dog race, are there a lot of bear attacks on drivers, mushers, whatever you call it?
You have to be very careful. There are bears in the area. You got
There you go.
I wasn't doubting you, Steve. I just know that when people say Iditarod, they think of Lucas. So I just wanted Lucas to go ahead and back it up there.
All right, we backed it up.
I just corroborated the evidence. We're all good.
All right.
It is a brutal race.
Yeah, so is a marathon.
You don't know what No, marathons are easy. I've done those before.
Oh, well, yeah, if you've done it, it's probably easy then. I've never done it just because it seemed really easy, and I heard Steve did it. Lucas, you ever run a marathon?
Half marathon.
A half.
Barely finished.
A half marathon? Why would you run a half marathon?
Because you got to prepare for the full marathon.
Okay, all right. Can we digress real quickly before we go into
football?
Hang on. No. Let me tell you my half marathon story, and then we'll bleed into the football. One year, we had the mini marathon in Indianapolis, coordinate for the Indianapolis 500 every year, right? So we used to run it every year. It was a Friday morning. We ran it, and then we started partying after the race for the whole weekend. All right. So I train. I mean, I run 4, 5, 6, 7 miles a day, or every other day. But I get in conditions where I can handle it. And it used to be they didn't start you in waves. They just started you could jump in wherever you wanted to. Well, being the idiot that I am, I went and started up front with a bunch of guys. Okay, so what they do is every mile they call out your time. So you're running by a mile marker. So you're going down Meridian Street in Indianapolis, and they got bands playing. They got thousands of people lined down the walls downtown Indianapolis, and I'm running, and I hit the 3 mile mark. All right, and I hear the guy calling out 17:56, 17:57, 17:58, 59, 18. I'm cruising by. I'm thinking I'll go there. I get about a half mile down. I'm thinking, okay, that's pretty good. I just did 3 miles in 18 minutes. Wait, that's a freaking 6-minute mile. I've never run a 6-minute mile in my life before. About 100 yards later, I started walking. But I was cruising until I figured out that I had just run back to back 6-minute miles because I was caught up in the adrenaline and the pace of everybody. I was just running with the pace. Had I not ever heard that, I wonder how far I would have gone. But I swear I ended up walking the last third of that race because I couldn't run anymore. I mentally killed myself by hearing that.
That's a good story.
At that point, it is. It's amazing.
Hilarious. All right, guys. So today we've got our AFC preseason preview. We're going to start off with the AFC South because I think this may be the most competitive and interesting division out there, except for Steve's Colts. But when I look at this, I think the biggest thing to watch here is just injuries. I mean, if you look at last year, you had Deshaun Watson, J.J. Watt, of course, Andrew Luck. The injuries may have a lot to do with who wins this division. When you look at this division, Steve, what teams do you favor? Who do you think's in some trouble here? Because to me, this looks like 3 teams and then the Colts.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the Colts are definitely in trouble. I mean, they're predicted to go around 5-11. I think that may be a little optimistic. Even if Andrew Luck comes back fully healthy, they are so decimated in every other position, and they've got a new coach and probably a pretty good coach from what we're being told so far and listening to camp stuff. Everybody's pretty happy with Wright. But I just think that they are a couple of years away from really, truly even being competitive. And the $10 question is we don't know what Luck's real condition is. They've been ultra secret quiet about it. He's throwing in practice. They say with good zip, but, he hasn't taken any hits. I'm sure they're limiting the number of throws. So he is predicted to play in the preseason opener. I think they're at Seattle or something like that. But I think the Colts are, looking for another good high draft pick, which probably is about the best thing that could happen to them. So I think they're out of the loop. Houston. Or you just comment on team by team. Go ahead.
Yeah, you can. I mean, however you want to do this, or we can start off doing it. So, Lucas, go ahead and give us your take on the Colts, because when I look at the Colts, I see a team that has done – I think they've done well in the draft the last year or two, but they had so many holes to begin with. I think this is a team, if Andrew Luck's healthy, they could top out at 7 wins maybe, but I don't really see their ceiling being much more than that.
I agree with you, Mike. I mean, I think, it really depends if Andrew Luck gets healthy. I mean, the last couple of years have been really tough on him. I mean, he needs to get to the level that we saw when he made the AFC Championship a few years back. I don't see that happening. And you're right. I mean, it is a huge hole in a really important position. So I think this is a step backward year for the Colts, a rebuilding year. Get maybe a high draft pick and then maybe make a splash at a Le'Veon Bell in the offseason. They have the cap space, so who knows if they'll make a big offseason move in the offseason. But I see them being last in the division.
All right. Next up, we get the Tennessee Titans, who were a team that everybody was saying this is going to be their year for the last 2 or 3 years. Finally, last year they did make the playoffs. This is a team, when I look at them, I think this is going to be a surprise team because I think this is your third-place team in this division. I think Marcus Mariota is a good quarterback. They've added pieces on top of it. But somebody's got to be third, and I think the other 2 teams, Jacksonville and Houston, are just better than them, Lucas. You would disagree?
I personally think that 3.
Hey, Lucas, right now at the Iditarod, are you in a tunnel? Because it sounds like you're in a tunnel.
No, he's in a public restroom taking a dump.
Oh, that is that sound, isn't it?
It's that sound where he's in a public restroom at an airport taking a dump is what he's doing. I guarantee you.
Are you in the men's room or the ladies' room, Lucas?
I'm in the sports room talking to you guys. So just to give you, my answer, I think 3 teams are coming to the AFC South into the playoffs, and I think Tennessee's one of them. I mean, I think Marcus Mariota, he's a good quarterback, and but he's not a superstar quarterback. And I like, the moves that they made last season to get to the divisional round. I think their defense is underrated, and I think that they have one of the best offensive lines in the AFC, which will be very critical to protect Mariota. I just like the Titans to get it into the playoffs. I think they'll probably win 9 or 10 games, and they'll sneak in.
All right, Steve, do you agree with Lucas, or is Lucas nuts?
They're a coin toss because Mariota's got to get more consistent. Last season, 13 to 15 touchdown to interception ratio doesn't help. Henry's got to prove he's a true lead running back for the team. They added a couple players defensively with Malcolm Butler and offensively with Don Lewis, but they're just inconsistent. I mean, you just never know what team shows up. I almost feel like they lose more home games than anybody that when I just follow. It's like, oh, they're playing in Nashville again, and the Titans lost again. I think their saving grace is the division they're playing because I don't think any of the teams in that conference are overly strong, and they get to play them each twice. So, but I think there's a chance they can make the playoffs. Predictions are around 10-6 for them, but I think that's probably a little optimistic. And we'll just if it's really on Mariota's shoulders to step up, and this is his 3rd year now, isn't it? And this is the start of his 3rd season. Yeah,
correct.
And he's got to become a leader of that football team now, and not just a player. And for the first 2 years, I think he's been an injured player and just a player. So they're a question mark. Malarkey is not necessarily a genius, I don't think.
He's not there anymore.
Coaching-wise.
Is he?
Oh, did he leave?
Thought so.
No, they didn't fire him.
Yeah,
He's
Mike
still there.
Vrabel's the coach. Lucas.
Oh,
hello.
Break the tie. Who's the coach of the Tennessee Titans?
You're right. It is Vrabel. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's Vrabel.
Yeah, you're right. I'm my mistake.
Which is what I think gives them a chance, though, because it's a different coach. I don't think Malarkey was ever going to do more than what he did.
It could or not, but, if Vrabel's putting in a new system, that could slow him down a little bit, too. I mean, they have more ifs than the other 3 teams that are going to be contending, I think, in the AFC South. They have the most ifs, I think.
Really? You think they got more ifs than the Colts?
No, the Colts aren't contending. The other 2 teams, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
There's no if about the Colts. They're going to be last.
Okay.
They're going to be the doormat this year. That's just, I'll still be a Colts fan. It's fine. I get it. We had a bonehead GM for several years, and he decimated the team badly. And, we got good people in there now, but it takes time to rebuild these programs. So, and the question mark is Andrew Luck. We're done with the Colts. So, Tennessee, to me, of the 3 teams that will be contending, the AFC South, I think, has the most questions of the other 2.
I kind of agree. Now, I think the Texans are going to be a better team. That's who we're going to talk about now. But I still think we have a lot of questions with the Texans because J.J. Watt's been out the last couple of years. Useless. Davion Clowney's had injury problems. And then you got Deshaun Watson. He looked great last year, but he looked great for 3 or 4 games. And to me, Steve, with the quarterback playing 3 or 4 great games, we've seen a lot of guys. Scott Mitchell did that back in the day and made all kind of money off of 3 good games. Once people get a book on you, know your strengths and weaknesses, it makes it a little bit harder on you. So I don't know if we can be convinced that Deshaun Watson's that guy yet. I kind of thought he was going into this, though, and I think the Texans, to me, I mean, it's going to be between the Texans and Jaguars. I think both teams can make the playoffs. What's your take on the Texans?
Yeah, I think the $10 question is, can they stay healthy? I mean, I think they're as talented as Jacksonville. Deshaun Watson has shown flashes of brilliance, which means he has it in him. It's like, can you get him healthy for a long enough period of time, and can you get him to be consistent with it? He, too, is starting, his 3rd year? Is this his 3rd year as well or 2nd?
For who? Watson?
Yeah.
Second year.
Second year. So, again, he's still in a learning phase of running a team and leading it, but I like Houston a lot. but I think that J.J. Watt anymore is good for 4 games, and then he's hurt something, and he's out. And you lose J.J. Watt on your defense cuts in half pretty much. In terms of just the presence of him being there and the amount of manpower it takes to neutralize him, it frees up other players. So I think the $10 question on Houston is, if they can stay healthy, I think they'll contend with Jacksonville. I think that if they stay healthy enough, they can be a playoff team. But the big if to me is health. How healthy can they be?
All right, Lucas?
I agree with Steve. I mean, I got Houston winning 11 games next year. I just believe that they're going to stay healthy. And if they do, this is a great team. I mean, Deshaun Watson, he's going to make the offense truly great. They also added on defense Tyrann Mathieu at safety, Aaron Colvin at the quarterback. So I expect the defense to make a real rebound as well. But you're right. I mean, injuries are questions for a lot of teams right now. So I like Houston to get one of the wild card spots and go to the playoffs.
Yeah, if they stay healthy. If they don't, they'll be 4-12 again.
Yeah,
that's simple.
The more I've thought about this, the more I think that I'm leaning towards picking Jacksonville to win this division. And we look at the Jaguars, I think you may have the most talented team, but the question is at quarterback, all right? And that's a huge question. Blake Bortles played decent in the playoffs up until the championship game, made some big plays, especially in the shootout win against Pittsburgh. Is this team for real? Is this team a Super Bowl contender, Lucas?
Absolutely they are. I mean, Blake Bortles, of course, he's not a great quarterback, but if he improves a little bit, this team is still good because they have a lot of pieces around. I mean, Leonard Fournette, he's fantastic at the running back position. The offense last year finished 5th in scoring and 6th in yards per game. The defense is 12 of 14 players returning, of course. They led in almost every defensive category last year. They were up by 10 in the fourth quarter in the AFC Championship game to lose to the Patriots. I like the Jacksonville to be a real contender, and they're just a great team.
All right, so when we look at this, are we all in agreement that the Jaguars win this division?
I think they should. I mean, I think the thing about Bortles is he's a yeoman quarterback, but he stays healthy. And I think anytime you can maintain consistency and keep your quarterback healthy and keep him in the game and keep the continuity of running his offense, I think that's almost as good as having a big play Ray quarterback who ends up, missing half the season. Bortles is sturdy. He's durable. He doesn't seem to make a lot of terrible mistakes. And he doesn't seem to make a lot of flashy plays either. He just goes out there and he gets it done. And I think he's a good fit for Jacksonville. But I think right now it's Jacksonville's division to win. I think somebody's going to have to take it away from them. And again, I look at the other 3 teams. They get to play all these 3 teams twice. And I think Jacksonville is just classy enough in this division right now to be able to dominate their own division and get in the playoffs and then see what happens from there. But I like them the best of the 4 teams in the AFC South.
Lucas, you got Jacksonville also?
Correct.
All right.
I got them winning about 11, 12 games, I would say.
I could see that happening. And we move to the AFC East where, of course, it's always Bill Belichick and the Patriots. My question is this. Is there a team on the rise here that could do anything to stop the Patriots from winning this division? The Dolphins, Jets, Bills. I mean, I think when I look at it, none of those teams have a quarterback that can get done beating Tom Brady. The Jets possibly with Darnold, but that's a year or 2 down the line. Just give us a brief overview of this, Lucas. Is this the Patriots division, or is there somebody here that could jump up and snatch it from them?
It's absolutely the Patriots division. I got them winning 11, 12 games. The only team I see maybe causing a bit of an issue would be the Miami Dolphins. I mean, they got Ryan Tannehill back, but I mean, he's not a proven quarterback. Unfortunately, the Buffalo Bills lost Tyrod Taylor, so they're going to either start with A.J. McCarron or Josh Allen, who aren't proven in the big stage at all. I don't see anyone really in the AFC East challenging the Patriots this year.
Steve, you agree?
Yeah, I agree. But I think the gap is narrowing, though. I think that as Brady gets older and the rift, if there is a rift even, the perceived rift between Belichick and Brady, that'll eventually start to have some type of effect over the course of time. I mean, these guys handle it better than anybody. But I think the gap between the Patriots and the rest of the AFC East is coming down. I like the Jets, not this year, but I like the way the Jets are building themselves. I think they've got a good young quarterback, very smart players, we're being told. Buffalo banking on A.J. McCarron is going to get them nothing. The Dolphins, if Tannehill makes it out of preseason, I'll be amazed. Because I don't think he's done that in the last 3 years, has he? Usually tears a knee up somewhere right about the end of preseason.
Well, sometimes he gets hurt in the middle of the season too, though, Steve.
Okay, yeah, all right. But still, did he ever play a complete season? I remember watching him when he was a rookie on Hard Knocks.
No, he's missed at least a game or two. And
he's not reliable. And you need to get somebody in there who's reliable that can, like what Bortles does for the Jaguars. He's there all the time, and they keep going through these continuity shifts with quarterback changes that's going to kill the Dolphins. They're never going to be good unless he just dumps Tannehill. He's not that good of a quarterback anyway. I don't think. He's good.
Jay Cutler, though.
Well, yeah, that's definitely. Well, not unless you watch Barry Cavallari.
I just wanted
Jay Cutler's pretty funny guy.
Again, so.
Yeah, he's pretty funny on TV. He's found his niche. So, but anyway, I think it's the Patriots, but I do think the gap's narrowing. I mean, the Jets could pop up and make a playoff, a wild card appearance. They could, but that would require.
You sound like that idiot for the Jet guy that was on with us at one time that tried to.
No, I think it would be a big confluence of Venus aligning with Mars and all the stars coming together for that to happen. But it's still New England's division. But the last time I'm going to say the gap is not as wide as it's been in the previous 10 years.
Yeah, but the one thing about the gap not being as wide, the gap's not as wide because I think the Patriots have dropped off. It's not because the other teams are doing anything. I think Jets are the biggest threat because I think they got the best coach. I think Todd Bowles is a hell of a football coach.
Yeah.
And I think they've drafted well the last couple of years. You remember Bowles had them 10-6 2 years ago, just missed the playoffs with a roster that may not have been as good as what they got now. The Bills, I think, could get the number one selection in the NFL draft next year. When you look at what they
along
did,
with the Colts.
I mean, their free agency pickups were A.J. McCarron, Russell Bodine. Russell Bodine's the worst center in football. A.J. McCarron, if he's a starting quarterback, will be the worst starting quarterback in football. I'm not sold on the head coach. I think their coaching is what lost them that 10-3 playoff game against the Jaguars, which they could have won. They got rid of Tyrod Taylor. I think they'd have been better off keeping Taylor, letting him play, and work in Josh Allen from there. But the way they are now, I don't see how you can start A.J. McCarron and think you're going to be a competitive team. With the Patriots, I think Sonny Michael, whatever the hell his name is, I think he's going to be the guy to watch. Because I think the Patriots may have with this kid a really good running game when you throw in Rex Burkhead and the guys they've already got there. So I think the Patriots win this division. I agree with you guys. And real quick, before we get to the AFC West and the AFC North, we're going to take a quick station break. We will be back right after this.
Replenishing Technologies helps athletes of all levels train, recover, and perform at their absolute best. We do this by offering the PEMF 120, the world's leading pulsed electromagnetic field therapy device. Workouts, injury, and stress cause cells to lose their natural power. PEMF works like a battery charger, helping cells regain the power needed to dump toxins, take in oxygen and nutrients, and repair. 95% of athletes report less pain, increased range of motion, more energy, and they simply feel better after using PEMF 120. If you'd like to count yourself among that group, contact us at www.replenishingtechnologiesinc.com.
All right, guys, we're back on Survive in Advance. I'm Mike Goodpaster with Steve Risley and, of course, our guest, Lucas Weiss. Was that all right, Steve? Did I introduce that all right?
I'm getting better at it.
Okay. Well, as long as I complete
still not where I want you.
That's why.
Still not where I want you to be.
Well, I'm trying to get there, Steve. I'll make you proud one of these days, though. I promise.
All right.
Let's look at the AFC West, which is a division which, when you look at it, I think you can make a case for probably all 4 teams to win it. You could also make a case for all 4 of them to be drafted in the top 10 in the draft next year, Lucas. And the team that really I like here is the Los Angeles Chargers. And almost every year, people say this is the year, and then they suffer some massive misfortune that disrails the team. They've already lost tight end Hunter Henry to a torn ACL. Yet this is a roster that I think appears perfectly set up to bring the talk of a Charger curse to an end. Phillip Rivers, I think, is one of the most underrated quarterbacks in football. And, he's got some offensive weapons. It looks like Keenan Allen's finally healthy again. You got Melvin Gordon, who I think was leaps and bounds better than his rookie season last year. And then the defense is, a pass rush with Joey Bosa, Melvin Ingram. I think they have maybe the best secondary in football, so this could be the best defense in football. I like the Chargers here. Am I crazy?
No, you're not. But unfortunately, the injury bug has ruined the Chargers again. Jason Barrett, recently just went down out for the season with a torn Achilles tendon that he got during a conditioning exercise. So that's obviously a blow. But look, last season the Chargers went 0-4 and they won 9 of their last 12 games. This year they have the 9th easiest strength of schedule in the NFL. So for all the reasons that you just mentioned, Mike, I like Phillip Rivers as a quarterback. I think that the Chargers it'll be close throughout the year. I think maybe teams like the Broncos or the Raiders will make some noise early on, but I think the Chargers will take the division winning 10 games, going 10-6.
All right, now, this is my thing, and I know me and Steve disagree on this. I think the last place team in this division is going to be the Raiders. And I'll make my case, and then, Steve, you can tell us why the Raiders won't be. But when I look at this team, I see aging running backs. They're going to be relying on Marshawn Lynch, Doug Martin. Martin has had a hard time finishing seasons. Lynch isn't getting any younger. The receiving options that Derek Carr will look to enjoy and have a bounce-back season are questionable outside of Amari Cooper. Jordy Nelson, who they added, struggled mightily last year when there was no Aaron Rodgers on the field. Martavis Bryant traded away from Pittsburgh because he was a problem player, basically. And then the biggest problem, I think, comes on defense. There's talent in the pass rush, but you've got Khalil Mack not happy, holding out. The linebacker core is set to be led by a 35-year-old former Chief in Derek Johnson. The depth in the secondary, particularly at corner, appears mediocre at best. And for a defense that finished 26 in passing yards allowed last year, there's huge questions there, Steve. I just don't see how John Gruden can make this team a contender.
On paper, I think you're right. But I just think Gruden coaches well with veterans. He likes reliable veterans to coach with. He relates to them a little bit better. The $10 question here is Gruden. Is more so than even the players he's got. He's got older players, no doubt. But is Gruden, so far removed from coaching that he doesn't identify with today's game, having been out of it? Just being an analyst is not like being a coach. But if Gruden can come in and rally these guys, he's got talent on that football team. And the Raiders have this mystique about them that, people tend to just, here come the Raiders, physical stuff, hard-playing football team.
Steve.
That stuff still sticks around. This stuff still sticks around.
They haven't really been relevant in a long time, though.
Derek Carr's got to stay healthy. He can't go down again, and otherwise they're doomed. So they're kind of my darling of this division. I think the Chargers are the team to beat, but I think the Raiders will make more noise than they will flop. I think Gruden will have them pumped up, and the whole city's going to get behind them, at least for this year until they move to Vegas, and go from there. So I don't think the Raiders can top the Chargers, but I think they can contend for a wild card playoff spot if Gruden can coach in the NFL still. That's the $10 question to me.
All right. The team that would be my dark horse here, Lucas, I don't know if you agree with me or not, would be the Denver Broncos. I think you added Bradley Chubb with Von Miller. They've got Case Keenum at quarterback. Case Keenum's not going to make mistakes. He led the Vikings deep into the playoffs last year. So I think when I look at this, I think this is a race between the Chargers and the Broncos.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, when I look at the wild card picture, I know I mentioned earlier that I think the two AFC South teams, the Texans and the Titans, will make it. I think the Broncos will just miss the playoffs. I see them winning 8 or 9 games. I like Case Keenum at quarterback. I mean, I have nothing wrong with him, but I just don't know. Like, I mean, you look at the playoffs last year. I mean, he did well, but Stephon Diggs, of course, and the Saints secondary bailed them out in the Minneapolis Miracle, and the Eagles just smoked the Vikings in the NFC Championship game. My big question with the Broncos is, can Von Miller step it up again? I mean, obviously Von Miller, back when the Broncos won the Super Bowl in 2015, was the engine of that defense. I mean, he won the Super Bowl MVP, destroying my Carolina Panthers in that game. So I think if Von Miller could get back to playing that physical defense that we saw back in 2015, I think Denver, I agree, will make some noise. But I just think they'll just miss the playoffs, in my opinion.
Yeah, and then you've got the Kansas City Chiefs. And the thing about the Chiefs is you got a new quarterback in Patrick Mahomes. They lost a lot of players, but they've got Andy Reid. And it seems like every year, Steve, Andy Reid's in the playoffs no matter what.
Yeah. He's one of the best coaches in the NFL, bar none. And you know, he can do more with less than just about any coach around there, you know, with less like somebody like a Belichick or something like that. But he doesn't necessarily have the strongest talent-wise, new young quarterback. But I think when you have Andy Reid, you're in contention. You know, the problem with the Chiefs is they seem to always flop in the playoffs right away.
Yeah.
They get to the playoffs and then they just fall apart in the playoffs. I don't know what causes that.
That's kind of Andy Reid's MO, though, even when he was in Philadelphia.
Yeah, Philadelphia, right. It's like when the Colts were going high, we were like, God, we never wanted to see the Steelers or Chargers because we couldn't beat them, but we always wanted to play the Chiefs because they couldn't beat us. So, you know, and I think 500 would be a good number for them, 8-8. But I think Andy's going to be the reason they're going to get to 8-8. But I don't think they have much more than that.
Yeah, and let's face it, the way the AFC is right now, 8-8 puts you in contention probably late into the season.
Yeah,
it does. Right? Yeah, no, it does. You're in the hunt at 8-8. So you know, it's how you play those last 3 or 4 games, and a lot of it, you know, is like who's on your schedule. Like the Dolphins, for instance, 5 of their last 6 games are against teams that made the playoffs last year. And you go back and start looking at things like that, and you know that's a tough road to hoe. You know, on your last 6 games when you got to play playoff teams to get yourself in the playoffs if you're even in contention at that point in time, where some other people are going to have a kind of a lay down schedule. You look at the conference you're playing in. I think this conference is a more elevated conference than say the AFC South. I think it's probably more elevated than the AFC East in terms of competitiveness between all 4 teams in the conference. So
I don't know about that. I like the AFC South and the AFC North because I think you've got 3 real good teams.
The North, yeah, we haven't talked about the North
I think
yet.
what we've got in the West is I think you've got a bunch of teams that just have a bunch of question marks. We won't know till halfway through the season how tough that division is or isn't, I don't think.
Correct. Yes.
All right.
One thing for sure, I think we all agree the Chargers are coming out of there. But if Rivers stays healthy, and you know they don't puke on themselves, which I don't think they're going to do.
Lucas.
But you know what? They opened up against the Rams in Los Angeles. Who's the home team?
Los Angeles.
Which one?
Doesn't matter. It's
that's
Los
true.
It's true. They opened up against the
home
Rams
team.
on Monday Night Football. It's the first Monday Night Football game. Is the Chargers and the Rams.
Really? I didn't even know that.
Everything big happens in Los Angeles.
It does?
Oh, my.
Yep,
That's just
it
because
does.
you moved there. Ever since you moved there, it's been that way. It wasn't like that before. Everything.
I think it was a little bit that way
Indianapolis.
long before. I think it was that way a little before I got here.
Yeah,
just a little.
The Kardashians were like what, 7 or 8 years ahead of you.
Yeah, they got this town nailed down.
Yeah. All right.
All
we'll
right.
go ahead and we'll move on to the AFC North, which is a division that has, of course, the Cleveland Browns, who I think Lucas is picking to go to the Super Bowl. But Lucas, let's just go through this right now. I mean, the talk of everything is the Cleveland Browns. I think they have to be better than what they've been the last 2 years. But is this a team that could make a playoff run?
No. The Browns are going to be better than last year. They're going to win they're going to go 5-11. Look, the Browns are a team. They have a lot of talent on this team, but they're just a couple years away. They still need a few more pieces. We don't know how Baker Mayfield is going to turn out. Hopefully, he becomes a future quarterback star. But, you look at previous Cleveland Brown quarterbacks, they've all flamed out. Johnny Manziel now playing in the CFL with the Montreal Alouettes. There's also a question about Josh Gordon, and can he come back and play to that high level where he led, I think it was in 2013 or 2014, led in receiving yards in the NFL. Look, the Browns will be better. Cleveland has that fan base, the dog pound, is something to be happy about finally, but they're not making the playoffs. They're definitely not making the Super Bowl. I get them about winning about 5 games.
Yeah, I would say 4 or 5 wins is about it, too. Steve, what's your take on the Browns?
Yeah, same thing. I think 4 or 5 wins. I mean, I think they're going to end up with a quarterback controversy there at some point in time, because I don't think Tyrod Taylor is going to do a lot for him. I don't think he's that good enough to move a team needle by himself. And then, they're going to be crying for the new kid and going for there, and that'll bring it down a little bit. They added some players, Jarvis Landry, Demarius Randall. Then they went free agency. They did a good free agency pick. Got some guys up in free agency to shore up their defense a little bit. They should be better at the running back, quarterback, wide receiver, and safety positions. But I don't think that they're anywhere near ready for contending for anything other than winning a couple of 3 or 4 games this year and surprising some things. So, we'll see. But they're in the right direction, but it's going to be a slow process for them. If you go in 16, you need to fill pretty much every dang position to get better to compete in the NFL for a Super Bowl.
All right, so that brings us to the Baltimore Ravens, who were a team that the last few years has not made the playoffs. They just haven't had enough offensive firepower, Lucas, and I don't think they've added that now. What they have added is, Lamar Jackson from, the University of Louisville. Maybe gives them something else there. Maybe it'll light a fire under Joe Flacco. It just seems like this team is kind of flattened out. I think the front office hadn't made as good of moves. I mean, they were known for a decade with Ozzie Newsome as just knocking it out of the park in every draft, and now it seems like every draft is a defensive player. They build the defense, but the offense is never good enough to get them over the top. I think this is a make or break year for John Harbaugh.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think John Harbaugh is on the hot seat. I think if they don't make the playoffs, he could be on the coaching carousel at the end of the year, out of a job. I just look at Baltimore, and they have a really tough road schedule. I mean, the Ravens' out-of-conference opponents were 35-13 last season, and over the past 3 years, Baltimore has managed only 8 road wins. So, I don't know, and I just don't trust Joe Flacco. I mean, he had that one great playoff run, but he's not, a really great regular season quarterback, especially if you look at the numbers. So I think Ravens win 7 games this year. It's the playoffs.
All right, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, since winning the Super Bowl, the Ravens have been 500 football team, 40-40, since when they won the last Super Bowl. Flacco, Suggs, and Weddle are all over 33 years old. They're old players. I think Flacco may be one of the most highestly paid, overrated quarterbacks in the NFL in terms of what he's getting, what he signed for, and what he's getting paid now, what his contributions to this team are now. But and Harbaugh just hasn't shown me he can coach his way out of messes the way I'd like to see him. I think they had some great runs, earlier, but I haven't seen just a slow, steady decline with that football program in the last 6, 7, 8 years. So I don't see it improving or turning around. I don't think they made any great additions to their roster that's going to spur things around. I think that Harbaugh's going to start feeling the heat about midseason if they're below 500, and then you start questioning what kind of coaching moves is he going to make in terms of trying to go for a win or not go for a loss, playing to win or playing not to lose. But I agree. I think 6-10, 7-9, somewhere in there, and I don't think they make the playoffs.
All right, so that brings us to the Pittsburgh Steelers, Steve. When you look at the Steelers, we've talked about Big Ben before on this show where we talked about the top 10 quarterbacks. Not what he once was, but you're not going to be at that age. I think the big question here is, what did it get out of Le'Veon Bell? Is he going to be a problem all year without getting a contract? You've got Antonio Brown. I mean, you've got one of the best offensive lines in football. But when you look at this, I mean, the big question to me still comes in the secondary with the Steelers.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, I said Steve.
I think Pittsburgh clearly is the class of the AFC North. I don't think that they're strongest by far from all the teams. You still have, I think Roethlisberger will keep Le'Veon Bell in check. Antonio Brown still is his premier player. So they offensively they're as strong as any team in the AFC. And Ben's deal at this point in his time is he's still a great quarterback. It's just, can he stay healthy? He's got a good offensive line to protect him. He's got to use it more, not try and run, and not try and realize to think he's 6'5" and 280 pounds or 60 pounds, whatever he is. He's got to stay back in that pocket and throw the ball and do what he does best, uses his weapons. So I don't see them being challenged too strongly in this division and getting into the playoffs.
See, I
know you're not high on their. I know you're not high on
their
their
coach. I
coach.
think it will be just because of the age and the coaching. And this is the thing. Last year was the first year Big Ben had played close to 16 games in a season. Le'Veon Bell's had a history getting hurt, so's Brown, so that could be a problem. But defensively,
right.
The thing that worries me for them is I think up front they're good, but they don't really get a great pass rush, which is why New England has been able to basically just tear them apart when they played them. I think T.J. Watt played really well last year at his position. Bud Dupree's entering his fourth season. I don't think he's that good of a player, and I think that now, as opposed to the past, players in this position outside linebacker with the modernization of NFL offenses have been forced to drop into coverage more often. Watt's great at it, but Dupree is not very good at it. And Lucas, I think what keeps the Steelers from being a Super Bowl team is the defense, because I just don't see how you're going to play any of the quarterbacks like Brady or whoever that's really good in the AFC and win a playoff game when you have a hard time getting a pass rush on them.
Oh, I absolutely agree. I mean, I think when you look at the Steelers' offense, it's by far one of the most explosive in the league. But we saw last year against Jacksonville and in New England in the regular season. They just, they gave up so many big-time plays, and it just hurts them. And I just think until they can, really solidify that pass rush like it was back in the 2000s when they had James Harrison and Casey Hampton and all those guys, the Steelers are, to me, the third best team in the AFC. They'll make the playoffs, they'll win the AFC North, but I don't see them competing with either the Jags or the Patriots.
Yeah, and then you've got the Bengals. What's your take on the Bengals, Lucas?
Bengals, they'll keep it interesting. I mean, I think they're going to miss Vontaze Burfict with the suspension, of course. But I don't see them making the playoffs. They'll win maybe 7 and 8 games. They'll be competitive. I mean, as you said earlier, the AFC, you win 8 games, you're right in the hunt. But I just think there'll be other teams that because of the tiebreakers or whatnot, they'll make the playoffs over the Bengals.
Well, I'll tell you this. I think this. If the Bengals had a coaching staff, I think they could win the division. But they don't. The thing that's scary with the Bengals is John Ross, who's looked really good in camp, would make A.J. Green even better, and then Tyler Eifert even better. But Tyler Eifert's going to be hurt all year also. The biggest question mark, I think, with the Bengals is offensively is the offensive line, which was terrible last year because the drafting they did with Paul Alexander, who was their offensive line coach, who's now in Dallas. I mean, Paul Alexander's he just basically looks like the Pillsbury Doughboy and is about as smart as one. And that's basically tore this team apart, his lack of ability to be able to select players. They have some talent, but in the end, I would pick Pittsburgh to win the division also, just because who else keeps a coach somewhere 16 years that can't win a playoff game, Steve?
Yeah, I think, lately the Bengals are just trending in the wrong direction. As long as they keep their coaching staff intact, I just think they're snake bit. They're not going to win. I'm just shocked that they've kept this guy around as long as they have. Lewis is he just can't win a playoff game. I don't get it. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, there's no words to say if he did this differently or that. He just snake bit in the playoffs.
Yeah, he's lost 7 games, and the last one, the thing that pisses me off is this. People always blame, like, Pac-Man Jones and Vontaze Burfict for the penalties costing them the game. But they lost that game because they handed the ball to Jeremy Hill, who that year had fumbled the ball 7 times. They had Joe Bernard in the backfield with him, who had fumbled once all season. So if you're running the clock out, you don't need to get a first down. Hand the ball to the guy that's not going to fumble the ball. That game was lost because Jeremy Hill couldn't hold on to the ball and because the offensive coordinator and the head coach decided we're going to hand the ball to the guy that's probably our most likely to fumble. And that's why Marvin Lewis is a joke as a head football coach. They have overhauled the coaching staff. I think the coaching staff is better than what it was. But as long as Marvin's there, there's a cap on what this team can do, which is losing in the first round of the playoffs. So I take it we're all picking Pittsburgh then.
Yeah, I definitely am.
All right, and Lucas.
Same with me.
Lucas, who's your AFC champion?
I got the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think this is the year for them. I think last year they really exploded, especially on their defense, known as Jacksonville. I just think if they had a little bit more experience, they probably would have been able to get over the edge against New England. I think in New England, I think this is the end for them. I think that they'll probably make the AFC Championship. I think the AFC, what it's looking like, is on a collision course to have a Jacksonville-New England rematch. But I think just this time, Jacksonville just does a little bit more on the defensive side of the ball to get them to the Super Bowl. So I got Jacksonville.
Yeah, but my question to you, Lucas, is this. Could you imagine Tom Brady losing to Blake Bortles in a championship game?
Well, he lost to Nick Foles.
Yeah, but Nick Foles, wait a second. Nick Foles was pretty damn good all year. And Nick Foles was just a backup. I mean, Nick Foles also had a year where he took him to the playoffs and 23 touchdowns, 2 picks. I don't disagree with you, though. Steve, who would be your AFC championship game?
I still don't think I can pull away from the Patriots one more year. I still think they're still solid, still the class of the AFC. I like the Chargers. I think it comes down to the Chargers. Because I think for the same reason you said, Bortles is just not a Super Bowl winning quarterback. I don't think he can make the big plays that Brady can make at the time they need to be made in the game. I think he's a good yeoman quarterback for regular season and won't make a lot of mistakes and get you to the playoffs. But that's when your quarterbacks are going to step up and start thinking the game differently. And I still think Brady's the master at that. I like Phillip Rivers and the Chargers. I think stay healthy. I think a lot depends on where that game will be played. If it's out east, I think New England has an upper hand. If the game's played out on the West Coast, I think it neutralizes a little bit more. But I would be tough, really, for one more year to pick against New England. I just think that the AFC is weak. The stronger teams are all in the NFC. And I just don't – I think the 3 or 4 class teams like New England, like the Chargers, like Jacksonville, and like Pittsburgh are just going to dominate the AFC. And, for whatever reasons, I just think Brady and Belichick will figure it out one more time and find ways to beat you.
All right. I'm going to do something here that is a little unconventional. I'm going to agree with Lucas. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to win the AFC East. Now, to make this more interesting, I think the Jacksonville Jaguars will beat the Denver Broncos in the AFC Championship game.
Ooh.
I believe the Broncos' defense will be really good. I believe Case Keenum will get them in the wild card. And Case Keenum will take them to the AFC Championship game, where the Jaguars will bludgeon them 37-3. See, I even give a score. You guys didn't give a score. So what we got here is we got 2 Jacksonvilles and a New England. Correct, Steve?
Correct.
All right. Any final words? Anything to look out for? Maybe Lucas that would surprise people.
Well, I would just say that my dark horse to get out of the AFC for me, if they could stay healthy, would be the LA Chargers. I think, Phillip Rivers, I like him as a quarterback. I really like that defense. I mean, I don't disagree with your pick, Mike. I mean, I think Denver, if Von Miller can get back to that 2015 form and that whole defense, they're an elite team, and they're definitely.
To tell you the truth, I'm throwing a dart on the board just because it's so wide open. Maybe I'll get lucky, but I do think Jacksonville has the most talented team.
For sure.
But Steve?
No, I'm fine. Nothing to add.
You want to make fun of Lucas one more time?
No.
I do, but I couldn't think of anything to say witty.
I'm unfortunate.
All right, so if anybody out there wants to sponsor Steve and Lucas to the Iditarod in Alaska in February, let us know, and you can become the sponsor for that show. Maybe we'll do a daily update from the Iditarod.
And that would be Lucas. Steve is not going to make the trek to Alaska.
You said you would do it just once.
Yeah, well, I BS my way through a lot of things.
Joking.
You think he was joking?
I'm not going up there and taking on a polar bear or a big grizzly bear. They'll beat me.
Lucas will protect
They
you.
win.
Lucas is probably got a
that's
gun or something living up there anyways, right?
And that's, not in Toronto.
So my question is this, because I really don't know this, but since it starts in Alaska, is the Iditarod just in Alaska?
It is.
Oh, okay. So really,
North American.
So basically, me and Steve making fun of you for the Iditarod has backfired on us, as we have found out.
Exactly.
You could have.
I'm not making fun. I think the Iditarod is a great sporting event. I think it's an incredible. Have you ever watched any of it or followed the trek when it happens? I mean, these guys, these dogs and these guys. I mean, it's a will to live for these people. I mean, it's
I
not
know
like.
You love dogs, Steve. So my question is this: is it humane?
The dogs are trained their entire lives to do this. I mean, that's what they're bred for and built for. Yeah, I think it's humane. I mean, is it humane to take a thoroughbred racehorse and just let him eat grass all day and get fat and die of a heart attack? I mean, the animals are bred to do certain things, and when you take away their natural instincts from them, these Alaskan Huskies and these Malamutes will go up there and do this. That's what they're built for. And the dogs are well protected. I mean, the ASPC's all over these people. They monitor them every inch of the way, make sure the dogs are being fed properly. They have mandatory rest stops or days off where the dogs have to be rested. And,
like
these
drivers.
dogs, these dogs are happiest when they're doing what they're instinctively bred to do. My dog's getting a dog park, and they're Australian Shepherds, and they just want to herd. And so they go out, and all they do is start running around other dogs and trying to move them. That's just what they instinctively do. And that's when, the dogs are just tail. Well, they don't have a tail because they're bobbed. But I think the dogs are fine. They lose dogs every year. Dogs die, either from exhaustion or from attacks by animals, drowning. Sometimes they do get on ice, sometimes and run. I mean,
I agree.
But they take every safety precaution they can.
I agree with you.
You
My dog just likes to go to the beach now. You've been to Brookville Lake, right, Steve?
Yes, I've been to Brookville Lake.
All right. We went to Brookville Lake, and there's a beach there, and my lab has never been to the beach. And I take him down, and he sees the beach, and he starts running. We got him on like a 50-foot leash, and he jumps in, and he's swimming. And he loves people to pet him, so he'll swim up to people, and he swims up in front of these, like, 3 little girls. And the other thing that he tends to do is we usually take him to the creek, and he'll take a dump in the creek. And we're sitting there, and these little girls are petting him, and then all of a sudden you just see this look on his face. And he basically took a dump right there. And then he goes swimming away, and then like 2 or 3 minutes later, you hear one of the little girls go, "Mommy, is that poop?" So they look at me. I looked at my wife, and I said, "Honey, there's a toilet up there." But I wonder that because my dogs swim every day for about an hour and a half in our pool.
They're out in our pool.
Do they poop in the pool?
They don't poop in the pool, but I got a question whether they pee in the pool. But I don't think they do.
I bet they do.
Of course they do.
Do you
what human
pee
doesn't?
in the pool? I pee in the pool. What makes you think your dogs don't pee in the pool?
I don't know, because they get out of the pool.
Do they drink the water?
Because they get out of the pool and they drink the water. They get out of the pool and they run to the grass and they pee for about 4 minutes straight.
Oh, okay.
So I don't think they're peeing in the pool. I think they're getting out of the pool.
So Lucas,
do
you pee in the pool?
Me?
What was that?
No.
Don't lie, Lucas.
Don't lie, Lucas.
No.
Lucas.
Maybe when I was a little kid. But nah.
Maybe it's just because me and Steve are older, we have to go to the bathroom so much. It just ain't
right. Exactly. Prostate problems. So
yeah,
you'll get there, Lucas. You'll get there.
That's what I'm looking forward to. Unfortunately,
we test our pH and chemical balances every day. It's all fine.
Think of it like this when you do this with us, Lucas. Me and Steve are both old, so if you play your cards right, someday this show could be all yours.
Oh, there goes the show.
Oh boy.
All that work.
Yeah, it'll just be a bunch of hockey. It'll be a bunch of hockey and curling.
Hockey.
Hockey.
Hockey and curling.
Hockey, curling, I get a rat.
Yeah. Well, then maybe by then it could be the Steve Risley Iditarod as memorial race.
No, I just think it's a very unique event. It's a very strong test of fortitude and will against the elements.
Much like Dancing with the Stars.
Without heaters in your mitts on a football field or space heaters on the bench. These guys go out and they put parkas on, they wrap up, they take their dogs out in sub-zero temperature. They're in sub-zero temperature. They're running 2,200 miles without support of like Tour de France. They got 12 chase cars for every rider. You know, the guys are out there on their own. They got to get to point A to point B or they're sleeping in the ice.
So what do you do when you got to go to the bathroom there?
Does a bear shit in the woods? I would guess Iditarod drivers shit in the woods too.
What if there's no woods? What if it's just all open snow? And you got
I think
there?
It's probably acceptable.
All right, Lucas, your job by tomorrow is to find out what Iditarod drivers do when they have to poop. All right, you get on that. All right, guys, we're going to wrap the show up today. Tomorrow we will have the other side, the NFC preview, and we'll all come on, pick our champion, and then we'll pick a Super Bowl champion tomorrow. So make sure you check us out on thegruelingtruth.net. You can follow us on Twitter at GruelingTruth or at Survive the Magic, which is the Twitter handle for Survive in Advance. Remember, you can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify. Wherever you find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Lucas Weiss, Steve Risley, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.